What's going on, guys? This is my news radar for Monday, December 7th. When you ask the average smartphone user what the most important thing about their smartphone is, a lot of them will tell you that camera. In fact, most big smartphone companies, be it Apple or Samsung, seem to dump a huge amount of their resources into the camera. And I mean, it does make sense because as much energy is put into making phones faster and faster and faster, the real world experience hasn't changed that much. In fact, I can pull out a phone like the Google Pixel 3, which is many generations old, and I can do most of the same things I do on a brand new smartphone, and it does it virtually just as fast. You're going for this higher and higher spec, but you're only getting these small percentages in terms of increased in real world performance, actually how quickly apps can open and so forth and so on. However, throwing a 108 megapixel camera into a phone, hey, that's a difference you're going to see right off the bat, or a periscope camera, optical zoom. These sorts of things are very noticeable, and they're really important to people. Most people after a little bit will forget that their phone isn't the absolute fastest phone on the market, but every time they take a picture, they're going to look at it and they're going to want the best camera. At least that's how a lot of people are. That's kind of how I am. So here's an interesting concept. Imagine a phone where rather than having to throw it out to buy a whole new phone just to get that better camera, imagine if you could simply pop the camera module out and install a new, improved camera module. And it sounds like science fiction. That sounds like something that Google tried to do back in the day. I think it was called maybe Project Tango. It was basically a modular phone idea. That might have been something else. But at any rate, Oppo appears to be experimenting with exactly this. Now, obviously, we've talked about Oppo in the past. They've been doing some really interesting things. They've already shown off a prototype of an expanding rolling screen phone, which looks awesome. Well, they're not stopping there because now they've got an idea for a phone whose camera module can be removed from the back. It actually has a battery pack in that camera module, so you could pop it out, set it somewhere else, and operate it wirelessly on its own, or even install a new upgraded camera module or camera pack. Now, as they mentioned in this article, it kind of does remind me in a weird way about Asus's ZenFone line, which is a set of a phone that has a camera that will flip up to face the front or motorized flip back down to face away. Well, on this thing, they're talking about actually having the ability of pulling this camera module out, the USB plug rotating 90 degrees and plugging into the bottom of the phone so you can take a picture facing forward that way. Seems a little clumsy in that regard. And while yes, this would remove the need for a hole punch in the camera or any sort of front-facing camera, obviously there are better ways to do this. Even the aforementioned ZenFone design or what OnePlus has done with the pop-up cameras, things like that. There's ways around this, and then under-display cameras are coming right around the corner. I think the more interesting way to look at this is being able to operate it remotely or being able to upgrade it down the line. Super interesting patent. It'd be really cool to see if anything actually comes of this. We've got a few more Samsung leaks to kind of pass along. Some of this information might not be completely new, but it is sort of reinforcement of some of the things that we've already talked about. This is coming from Phone Arena, and basically what they're showing here is that it does appear that Samsung is working on a Z Fold 3, a Z Fold Lite, and a Z Flip 2. So looking at the leaked possible specs here, the Z Fold Lite to me is the one that's really interesting because I think proliferating these folding phones to a cheaper price point is going to be, what's going to drive this thing along, because right now a $2,000 phone is not accessible to most people. But if the Z Fold Lite can get under $1,500, throw a contract in, pay for it monthly, suddenly you're going to start seeing folding phones all over the place. And we're looking at, on the Z Fold Lite, an internal screen that is going to be no bigger than 8 inches, likely to remain 7.6 inches, and a 4 to 5 inch external display. Now that sounds small, but keep in mind it's probably going to be quite narrow, so that 4 to 5 inch thing kind of throws things off a little bit. The Z Fold 3 will probably have the same size 7.6 inch screen. That's what they're going to do in the Lite, although you are going to get 120 hertz out of that screen that you're probably not going to get out of the Lite. Not a big deal there. Same thing, 4 inch to 5 inch external screen, and S Pen stylus support. Unclear if the stylus will actually be stored in the Z Fold 3 or how that's going to work, but it does appear another report that Pen support is coming. And then the Z Flip 2 is going to give you a 3-inch external display to go with the 6.7-inch internal display. I think having a bigger external display, more like what the Moto Razr has, would be a pretty good improvement. It's important to note that in these rumors, the Z Fold 2 had a larger external screen than what they might be doing on the Z Fold 3 and Z Fold Lite. Why would they do this? Well, maybe they're trying to make the thing thinner and lighter. Maybe that's going to be how they're going to help get there. And also, it doesn't really make a ton of sense, as they say here, of having a big internal screen and then having a big external screen as well. Anyways, we also have here a bifold or a dual folding patent that's been dug up by Let's Go Digital. Pretty interesting concept here. Instead of having one fold in the middle, you'd have two folds on either side. Not a lot to share on the dual folding design, but there are several more patents that have been filed here, including a tri-fold design, a Z Flip dual folding model, which looks like it's got a peak mode from the Surface Duo, all kinds of things that Samsung appears to be experimenting with here going forward. As you guys know, rather controversially, Apple has removed the charger from the box that the iPhone 12 comes in. This is kind of an annoying thing, and the reasoning has been, well, hey, everybody's already got a charger. We're going to save the planet by not having a charger in the box. Let's be honest, they're probably saving a nickel, so that's why they're doing it, if we're all being honest. Well, interestingly enough, in Brazil, they're not going to be able to pull this off, apparently. So in Brazil, there is a public consumer protection agency. Procon SP is what I'm going to choose to pronounce that. And basically, they notified Apple in October to ask the company for clarifications on why they've removed the adapter from the iPhone box. They basically asked Apple, why have you removed it? Can you demonstrate how this is not going to be detrimental to the customer, and then how this will actually help with what you're saying it will help with? Apple responded to them by saying that most users already had a compatible charger and that the decision will reduce carbon emissions. The Brazilian agency was not happy with the response. The power adapter is considered an essential component of the product, and selling the iPhone without it is against Brazilian Consumer Defense Code. I mean, look, it's kind of hard to argue here. I mean, if you buy an iPhone and you don't have a charger, you literally can't use the thing. So buying it, shipping this thing without the charger in, it's kind of hard not to argue that that's not an essential component. Really interesting that in Brazil, they're pushing back on this. Personally, I think it's kind of insane. I get what they're saying, that it's for environmental reasons, but I don't think anybody really believes this. I'll be really curious to see if other countries follow suit in this regard. What do you guys think of the power brick being removed from iPhones? There's rumors that Samsung is going to start doing the same thing. What do you guys think about that? Let's close up with a rather odd news story. The headline reads, Pennsylvania legalizes delivery robots that weigh up to 550 pounds, classifies them as pedestrians. So if we look here, we have an image of what exactly I'm talking about. It's a FedEx drone, and obviously there's a big one and a small one. This guy looks like the heftier 550-pound version. Some really interesting things here. Basically, they're allowing these to be driving up and down the sidewalk to deliver packages to people, and some of these quotes are very, very funny. Washington State has a weight limit of 120 pounds by comparison, and a sidewalk speed limit of 12 miles per hour. In Florida, you can get up to 15 miles per hour. They're going to be on the sidewalks with 12 miles per hour. That is extremely fast, Eric Borer, a member of Bike Pedestrian Advocacy Group in Pittsburgh, says. Like many others, he does not believe it's proper to legalize these delivery drones, considering the average walking speed for pedestrian is 3 to 4 miles an hour. So basically, these potentially 500-pound robots are going to be zipping up and down the sidewalk. I hope they can see people and get out of the way of them. In a city like Pittsburgh, you have narrow sidewalks. Some of these things can be the size of a refrigerator. How are we going to get around that? I'm just imagining these things running people off the damn sidewalks, running over the small and the very old and frail. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I got nothing really to say about it other than that. Just a strange news story I wanted to pass along. So guys, that's all the news I have for you today. Be sure to check back every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for the next edition of My News Radar. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends. If you enjoy my content, please consider becoming a Scary If Literal member. You'll get access to a whole bunch of emoticons to use with live streams and a shout out on an upcoming video. Thanks as always for your continued support.